Aleph 0, we are layer 1, focusing on building privacy for DeFi. Today I'm going to talk about what does it mean for a decentralized exchange to be private. So let's set up some stage before we go into exchanges themselves. So privacy comes in many flavors in blockchain. Usually we assume pseudonymity as a default. So we are not operating by our real names. We're operating with blockchain addresses, which can be treated as pseudonyms. And in such a system where if anyone does an on-chain transaction, what is visible for outsiders is that some address sends some tokens to some other address. There are stronger flavors of privacy. One step further is anonymity, where we are, instead of having constant pseudonyms, we have our actions fully unlinkable. So whenever we transact with someone, what is seen from the outside is only that someone sent some tokens to someone else. It's not seen, this transaction cannot be, for example, linked to any other transaction or tracked to the source of funds. So this gives full anonymity, but we could potentially go even one step further here to achieve full privacy, where even the type of action which happens is not publicly visible on chain. So whenever someone does something, the only thing which is visible on chain is some cryptographic garbage, and it's rather impossible to make anything reasonable out of it. So there is one cryptographic primitive which is very prevalent in this space. We call it Shielder because it was introduced in Zcash for shielding transactions. As we can see here, this is a graph of transactions. So there are some users sending some tokens to each other, and there is this white box which basically allows to conceal whatever happens inside. With some cryptography. Of course, I'm not going to go into details of cryptography in scope of this talk. So this primitive, we call it a shielder, and it allows basically to just conceal part of this transaction graph. Hence, giving full anonymity for transacting parties. Once someone is already in the shielder, meaning some of the funds are logged in the shielder, what is actually possible is to interact from inside with normal smart contracts. This is something that's pretty popular on Ethereum right now. There are projects like, for example, Railgun, like us as well. We are building it on our own layer 1, which are working on seamless integration with this shielder primitive. So you could treat it basically as your private wallet to keep your funds always inside of a shielder. And whenever you would like to do any DeFi action, you can basically do it in a fully anonymous way. What's interesting here is that this contract that we're interacting with, it doesn't need to be privacy enhancing in any way. It can be basically any typical smart contract. It can be Uniswap. So we can have our tokens kept in our private wallet, do an exchange at Uniswap, and then end up with tokens that we bought back in the shielder. But there is one caveat here. So it is anonymous in the sense that no one can tell who is doing this action. What is public, though, is the action itself. So amount of tokens that are being traded here. So one can say that, well, this is good enough, but there are some economic reasons for which we could want to have this thing private as well. For example, preventing front running, but also concealing the action that certain tokens are at move, that we're selling certain tokens. For example, we may be one of the big holders or something like that. So we want to delay the reaction of the market and trade these tokens in private. There are two main flavors of private dexes. By private dexes here, I mean better than anonymous. I mean, the ones which actually try to conceal the traded amounts. So first one is peer-to-peer. So this is pretty hard to work with. The idea here is that we, as a trader, are looking for a trade counterparty in a peer-to-peer network. So we are connecting to different peers. We are running expensive cryptographic protocols to check whether these peers would be interested in trading with us without revealing our intent. So this is actually pretty tricky, but possible. And once we find such a counterparty which is interested in trading the opposite token for the same price that we are interested in, we execute the trade. So this is good because it gives full privacy. Nothing about our intent is ever revealed. Only the actual trade counterparty knows that, this token is being sold. The problem here is that we need to be online all the time because we need to actively search for these counterparties. So the user experience of this kind of trading is very hard. And actually what happens, for example, in Renegade Finance, the new Ethereum project, is that users are actually not online, but they have some kind of like representatives. So they can reveal their intents to the representatives, and they will be actively searching for these trade counterparties, which is, of course, improves UX greatly. Of course, sacrifices the privacy because we need to reveal our intent to someone. And the set of these representatives is not all that big. So actually, there are representatives which are gathering quite a lot of data on who wants to trade what. And there is a second type, the one that we are pursuing. It's, I call it aggregated reveals. So the idea here is that we have cryptographically concealed trades or orders. Then there is some mechanism to make a batch out of these orders, batch of, say, hundreds of these orders. And then only the entire batch ever gets revealed. So for example, if there are 15 people which would like to sell ETH for USDT, different values, then only the aggregated value of a trade will ever be revealed and then traded. So obvious benefit is that the UX for users is much better because the user just needs to publish order once and then can turn off the computer. There is no need to stay online. It's much faster because there is no need for this peer-to-peer protocol to run all the time. And this scales much better with number of trading parties. Of course, the downside is the privacy is somewhat limited in the sense that these batches are revealed. So it reveals some aggregate or some information about the trades is public at some point. Our take on aggregated reveals is to build private order book. So not only a DEX for market trades, but the one where you could place an order for a price which differs from the market price. The flow for this order book is as follows. So while sitting in the Shielder, we assume that everyone uses the Shielder, or like you could interact with a private order book from private address. It makes much more sense to interact with it from the Shielder, so from a private wallet. So from a private wallet, anyone can create a private order or a value private order. That's the order where it is public what tokens are getting traded and what is the limit price. It is not public what is the value. And this is important because it's actually pretty easy to conceal the order book by placing multiple orders with value 0. So like we can assume that order book will always be quite full of orders, just not all of them will be reasonable. Some of them will be there just to obscure the view. Then like periodically, the batch of orders will be aggregated. So the price will be queried from the price oracle. Then the orders which satisfy this price both ways will get aggregated together to the batch. And then only the entire batch, the sum of these orders, will ever be revealed. This example shows just one trading pair. Of course, it's the entire DEX has multiple pairs, but the mechanism stays the same. So when the batch is revealed, there's one more trick that can be done here. So the batch most probably have orders which are attempting to make the trade both ways. So some of these trades can be done internally, which has a big benefit of being immune to front runners and to price fluctuations on the outside market. So part of the volume is traded internally for the perfect price, and only the remaining part of the batch will get traded on normal exchanges. So the last step here is after the internal trade, the rest of the batch that has been revealed goes to the normal underlying public DEX and gets traded on the public DEX. And then the entire outcome of the batch trading goes back to the shielder, to the users that have been which orders have been included in the batch. There are quite a lot of technical tricks here. For example, that everyone benefits from this perfect trading inside of a batch because we guarantee the same price for every participant in the batch. But general flow is like this, and we like it mostly because it shows that privacy can have positive influence on economy. Not only so it's not only ideological choice of the users. In this example, it actually allows users to trade for better prices than they would do without this privacy component. So, like, that's part of our bigger vision to make a private DeFi and to market it as DeFi that is actually economically better and not only one where you can hide your funds. We have 3 more minutes. This is last slide. So if anyone has a question, I would be super happy to answer. We have a microphone, I think, that can be passed. And I don't see you, so I'm not going to see the raised hand. I hope someone else will.
Yeah, if you have a question, I'm here. We can always pass the mic. No questions? All right.
No, then thank you. Thanks for listening, and thank you for having me.